When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature's God entitles them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. That's from the Declaration of Independence, 1776, June 9th, and it's a paragraph of it that most people have not heard. Welcome, everyone. This is the native voyage of the Walk on Water broadcast, where the main focus of this channel will be to help us to understand ourselves in realms that we know exist, but we take them for granted, and we allow others to make the crucial decisions of our lives for us instead of us making those decisions coherently. So my job here is to help us understand that and learn the importance of your capacities in law in particular. So I'd like to welcome you. I've got a guest on the line as well that's going to come and join the discussion with me. I'd like this to go further and have more guests and have more listeners and commentary during these broadcasts. But until we learn how to use this format and learn how to do this stuff, we're just kind of putting it together as we go. So I'd like to welcome Carter. He's from North Texas, and we're relatively close as far as communication. And I'd like to introduce Carter. Carter, welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, Dave. I'm glad to be with you today.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Well, there's a lot of stuff that we'll be going over. As far as I don't have a time limit on how long this will go, I kind of let nature take its course, if you will. So basically, what I'd like to do with this first broadcast is to kind of summarize what I mean by walk on water in particular, because most would take that as a biblical reference, which it is, but I'd like to explain that a little bit to clarify. I'd also like to go over some, global news and certain, to me, certain stories stand out that they're separated dots that have to be connected and looked at in a different way than most that I've seen out there. And I've been to, and I've, been active on YouTube, not doing my own stuff, but, collecting data, if you will, and learning a lot of things through social media avenues and reading tons of books. So there's a certain aspect that I think I bring to the table that's not really out there for people to listen to and to kind of have the opportunity to check it out. So I'm attempting to bring that to the table. And Carter's been gracious enough to come in and help with this endeavor to a certain degree. And he has some great topics that he likes to discuss and stuff that he's researched on and where he likes to go as well. I also want to focus on my main path would be to teach people their capacity. Now, most people, again, think of themselves in a certain way, and they don't really take the time out to look at themselves in a parallel shadow way that exists all around us at all times. And we have to start thinking in a different way if we're going to take what changes are happening now and moving into 2018 into the near future for at least the next 3 years, and what is happening without people really realizing it. And I would say a lot of people are realizing it. But That's going to take where we can, again, the target would be to be able to learn ourselves so we can take local action and bring it to our local communities and learn how to impact our principalities, or excuse me, municipalities, in a way that benefits the people the way it should have been done our whole entire lives, in all honesty. But we haven't had what we're supposed to have. We've had what I call a hijack, or a lot of people call a hijack, that's came in and created a layer over top of our social structure that we're supposed to have, because we've been distracted by our common problems and our common struggle. So I'd like to bring these to the front and relate them to current events on how this will affect and impact, and so we can bring ourselves to the table and help push the change that we're all have been looking for and wanting, and especially the next generation has been looking for as well. Even though people think of them in a different way, I've got a view on that I want to express as well. But anyway, Carter, what did you have anything that you'd like to bring in and kind of give us a general idea of what you'd like to discuss?
Yes, I would like to talk about solutions and what we can do for moving towards the directions to these issues and problems that we see all around us and in our own lives. What we can do to find a solution to these problems, and how can we even figure out what to do, because some of these things are just so overwhelming. It's like we almost might feel powerless to even do anything. So I would like to talk about solutions first off.
Okay. Well, solutions it comes down to, you have a couple different viewpoints that has to be, you kind of look at this issue. Solution being, first we have to define a problem, right? You can't find solutions to something that you're not even identifying as a problem. So with that in mind, let's identify some problems, common everyday problems. I'll just kind of be brief and kind of throw some out there. Everybody knows, or anybody that has any wherewithal knows, that for an example, that transportation as a code of law, if you will, a statute, has nothing to do with the general masses going from place to place and here to there on their own free will, right? So, but what has happened is by, and this is kind of complex, but this is just a very brief idea, is what they have done is they've superimposed or transhumanized, is what I call it, a version of you that is in what is called the capacity of commerce or commercial. And with that, they automatically assume that you are in the commercial capacity. And it's up to you to know that you're not, and then how to articulate that to them. So again, we're so far into this that even if you did perfectly tell them, you're still going to end up with an issue. So we have a lot of work to do to get the, in this case, police departments as a corporation. That's not a service to us. It's a corporation with the service to profit. So there's a conflict of interest in the way we've been brought up in it. So again, finding to find solutions, we got to find the problems. Another problem is we accept, and I know this is going to sound kind of out there to some people, but most of the people that would listen to this would probably know that we call money is not actually money by any definition. It's a circulatory note or a check or a promise to pay. Now, who promises to pay who? It's a check to you that the bank is issuing for the population to use in commerce, in interstate commerce. Being said, it's a promise to pay what? It's a promise to pay something of real tangible value while you circulate this piece of paper that's actually just like your check out of a checkbook. That's a promise to pay later. And we've accepted this as valuable money, and we're now dependent on this valuable money to buy our food and to buy our electricity and to buy our necessities of life, even though it's not real. It's completely fake. And it's fake in the sense that the only value is what you perceive it to be. That's it. There is no, you see it as a Snickers bar. $1 is a Snickers bar. But if I told you when I was a kid a Snickers bar was a nickel, what does that tell you? Right? It tells you that the value of the circulation of money, that value, that unit of value is devalued, like dramatically. So again, that's a problem, right? So we have to identify problems. So that's one of them. That's going over two basic everyday problems that some people don't identify as problems.
Yeah, another problem that I'd like to address is it almost seems like we're all trying to attain happiness and be, our best selves and live to our fullest potential.
Sure.
I think that one of the problems is that we're a lot of men. I mean, we're striving to do that, but it's almost like there's just so many obstacles of life, and we all have our own problems that we almost not think about it, but we end up getting, focusing on something else and trying to do something else. But I think that that's just one of the things that we need to focus on is how can humanity be reached at the maximum potential that we can, or reach as much potential as we can possibly,
right?
Like as far as we can go,
Yeah.
We have to figure out these things.
Right. Well, I mean, what you're kind of getting at is there's been mechanisms put between your maximum potential and that would be anybody in this population. You have some that are able to circumvent that in some ways, but in others they lack. So it's a kind of a built-in regulatory system that keeps it comes down to a financial, by implementing a monetary system, you automatically built in a carburetor, if you will. So if you have maximum potential on one hand and maximum control on the other, then if you go maximum the one way, there is no limit, right? There is no limitation to the possibilities of achievement. If you have the other in maximum control, you have a completely controlled population that only is allowed to expand upon request, right? So we're in the, I mean, just by basic function, we're in the maximum control avenue, right? Then if you take monetary systems as being one regulator, then you have a religious point of view, scientific points of view, or restrictions or limitations. There's a couple of different filters that come into play. So to meet the human potential, right, or man's full potential, there's by no means able to be any monetary system. Now, I'm not the only one saying that. It's not like I'm kind of manifested that out of thin air, right? It's always been known. In fact, the founders of the passage I read from my book called The American Patriot's Handbook, right? A great book that everybody should have, and everybody should not just read it, but study it. They understood this concept. But again, the human spirit or the human condition has been monetized or transhumanized, altered from its natural state. And the biggest linchpin for that altering is a monetary system, is government, is religion, is schooling, right? All these things are meant to teach you limitation. Parents do it too. So, I mean, so in order to solve that, we have to get people to identify themselves in a different way because we operate in the general population operates in a standby mode, if you will, or a mode of just barely being conscious of their world around them, just enough to grab a cheeseburger and drink some beer on Saturday or Thursday or happy hour or whatever. And these distractions come in, and it would be frustrating for the next generation coming up because you're limited to service oriented careers. I mean, everything is based on services. Whether that now you can have a service that's plentiful and is in a positive direction, such as knowledge, right? And that's tend to where it seems to be where I tend to go is, or I'm trying to go is the service of spreading knowledge and helping people learn more about themselves. It's not knowledge of economics; it's knowledge of themselves and how they operate. And with that, we can it starts solving it by itself by doing that. Because as you raise the awareness of the people, and the people realize their personal value, the automatic shift will automatically happen, right? And we're already in the midst of that on a federal level. Think of federal level being on a collective basis, right? It's already started. Down here on the local level, we ain't seeing nothing, right? We're not going to see anything, even though we're supposed to be the ones that impact this thing the most. So why is that the case? It should be coming from the ground level that this change occurs. Actually been given an opportunity. Now, obviously, a lot of that has happened. Otherwise, we wouldn't be going through this shift, right? And by the shift, I mean by the Donald Trump concept, right? Where a person comes in and is a brilliant dude. I mean, no matter how you cut it, and people can belittle him all he wants, but the dude's brilliant, right? And there's plenty of stuff to back that, right? But and I'm a political atheist. I'm not a Republican, Democrat, none of those bullshit. Right? I think that's all BS. I'm a human being. I'm a man, right? And in that, I make my own decisions, and try to control the limits put upon me. But I don't. I try not to participate in this system as I create. To me, it starts from the individual, and you have to take action for that. So, again, I don't know if I actually hit exactly where you were going with that.
Oh yes, that was it. All ties together. So
yeah, it all does in ways that it's hard to see because even the stuff like I know you're more into at the moment into the secret societies and the rituals and the mysticism side, and it's a phenomenal concept and it's a phenomenal it activates your brain in a way that's very complex and it's good because it leads into all kinds of stuff. However, it's still just a piece of the layer, and you know that. I mean, it's just a little piece of the puzzle, but it's a very complex. It takes a very very complex thinker to even take that beast on.
yes, and some of the other things. Another thing I'd like to talk about is information, and I wanted to talk about some current events and news.
Sure.
What's going on?
Sure. Like
Well,
news wise, did you have anything in particular, or do you want more of like my take on it? Or I mean, we can have a combination of both. Is probably the best avenue, I would think.
that's what we need to do. Is we need to go through some news.
Right. Um, well, on the news front, there's a couple things that are
Yeah,
stories.
I just came across an article. It said the Russia investigation is over, and the globalists plotting to kill Trump are now under investigation.
Right.
It's from News Wars. It looks like it's an Alex Jones video. Alex Jones
Um,
breaks down how and why the global establishment's plan for a new world order technocracy is in danger now more than ever, with Trump and the White House thwarting their agenda. So that seems like Alex is saying that, is still pushing that Trump is the man.
yeah. Yeah, and all the compass needles, if you will, point to that. I mean, again, you have to approach it with caution because, again, it's not coming from. It came from the ground level to get Trump implemented in order to, and again, his role primarily the first term is to rout the globalists. Um, that's what he's been hired to do, and he seems to be following suit. Um, and people don't like that. Now, people on the general population don't like it because they're being told through their boxes to not like it. They can't articulate why that is. They can throw fake news little headlines out, but they don't really have any concrete personal experience, obviously, that they are drawing these conclusions on. They're using the news media to complete their thoughts, right? So um, it's a huge what Trump is there to do and what he was obviously by a landslide after all the fraud's done, because that's a particular piece I'll hit on one of these headlines. Where we all know that the voting system has been rigged. It really and honestly, you go back, I can get you to people and to thinkers that put it all the way back from the initiation of the Electoral College, and there's some that can go back a little bit further than that. However, we all, in the basic understanding of things, do know that it's rigged. We have always known it's been rigged, right? So if that's the case, how did Trump get in, right? If the case is that the voting process is rigged, then how did Trump get in there? Because he's going to have to play the game. He's going to have to. He knows it's rigged, so he's going to have to play the game in order to make that happen. And he's connected to other people that are just as powerful, but in a different way, as far as available funds and available political pull that are just that we're hearing about. But again, it's kind of more of a they have to appear disconnected in order to make it solidified. So you have players in the game that we see every day, Godey and the Pauls. All these guys are seemingly disconnected, and they'll even say things that they don't like about the candidate or about the president or about this guy or that guy. But that's only an illusion. That they're all working together. They're all working together because it's a push to route all the national governments all over the world. It's not national governments; they're federal governments that is spread throughout the world that are the epitome of evil. And in the beginning of this, some people aren't going to see it that way, but I think a lot of our listeners or my listeners or whatever know that they're a hallmark of an evil entity that is spread like viruses all over this planet. And to get them out of here, they're very well entrenched, especially in America. The American population is the maximum mind controlled victims, and they don't even know it. Some have. You have the awake people that can identify it, but they're still mind controlled in there as well. Even the people like ourselves that are inquiring and striving to get out of it, we still have to participate in the mind control in order to buy food and in order to stop, keep from being arrested as much as possible, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but the Trump issue is he's got a hell of a task, bro. He's taking on a, man, it'd be generations long. Um, I guess you would. We don't want to necessarily call it a conspiracy, really, but it's a generations long thing here that's going on that is being thwarted, and It's a crazy thing. So anyway, the Alex Jones headline was, what was the specifics on it? What was the direction?
That Trump was the man. He was going to take down the globalists.
Yeah, yeah, and he is. I mean, so far, but again, he's going to have to play some games. Give me an example of a game. Let me find a headline. Um, there's one in particular where the Syria, where Trump bombs. Um, what was that? ISIS in Syria, something of that nature. The U.S. drops largest nuclear bomb on the Afghanistan. Yeah, non-nuclear. Uh, um, sorry, I should have this stuff up, but again, I'm amateur.
Yeah, no, some other things I wanted. Another thing that we need to talk about are books and the importance, because it seems like there's more. I've found more useful information. Well, I found a lot of great information in books that have helped me in my research, and it's almost like it's almost kind of tough to find this stuff on the internet. But although it is there and it's everywhere on the internet, but it seems like books have their own piece to the puzzle to add, that you can find, original. You can make your own original connections and stuff like that, even if
Yeah,
it's on an ebook. But it seems like there's probably a lot of books that you're gonna need that might not even be in ebook format yet.
right. Oh, there's tons of books. I mean, again, it depends on your, again, my main focus and the reason why like my book, the Practical Guide for Everyone to Walk on Water. My primary focus is the application of the people's power on their local governments to impact the national level, instead of the national level impacting the local and then thus impacting us. We're supposed to be operating the opposite direction. So in order to the books that I would be, mainly pushing for myself right now are like, again, like the American Patriot Handbook, Politics and the Occult, The Left, the Right, and the Radically Unseen. Um, I mean, I could go on forever. The library that I went through covers everything from, Freemasonry, rituals, Egyptian Samaria, the whole, alien BS disclosure thing, um, shape shifting reptilians, um, the whole nine. Atlanteans, I mean, the 9 foot tall Assyrians or whatever. I've been through them all. The giants of Genesis, But the main, the number one piece, the book that tells it all, and is really and honestly for you and I, the Caucasian American type concept, the white guys, the black guys, the Western philosophy would be the Bible, right? But all your Bibles, all over the world, all describe the same thing. The only difference being is the our Bible, the Christian type Bible, describes something that is very basic. It's very simple. Um, it's not complex. It's not hard to understand. Um, it's made that way through looking at it through the lens of a dogmatic system. When you look at it as a man, it's very simple to understand. So a Bible, crucial, right? For me, the American, anything American history, that it covers your um, your rights as a human, right? And human is a hue of man, so there's a key there. But anyway, man is male, female, doesn't matter. It's still a man. And then hue man is a hue of a man. So again, I'll keep with the terms for now. So as a human, um, as far as we see it, and the best way to get to the point would be through the Bible and through anything on these founding documents, the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, um, at least a good American handbook, because they have it all in one. And then there's 1,000 more books that will probably, what we'll end up doing is going over the books, but keeping it to a subject matter that we're working on for that particular podcast or broadcast.
Right, but for this case scenario, you're talking about the Assyrians and the Egyptians and Babylon giants and the Bible, and that touches on a part that the Bible is key to understanding everything, and that's why it's such an important part of civilization, the whole religious side. It's always been there, and
Right.
and what's amazing is that with that just that book and everybody knows about it, it connects to all of this stuff in the ancient times, and that
Absolutely.
leads to the next thought that I had with philosophy, ancient philosophy, and um, all these important figures, Jesus, Buddha, and then all the others philosophers and of antiquity, and that's another thing that other books that I would be looking at are books that are talking about those things. And one of those books that I've been reading recently is The Secret Teachings of All Ages by Manly P. Hall. Um, although he was a 33rd degree Freemason, this book has really shed some light. Has actually shed an immense amount of light onto the past and
Yeah.
um,
Great book.
the mysteries, because I've been trying to figure this stuff out, but when I came and sat down and started reading this book, it's laying it all out and it's really helping me out. And it's mentioned morals and dogma and other books that I've had, which um, I started learning about this through a book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier,
Yeah.
and that book also helped me immensely in just in trying to figure out what could be going on at that highest levels. Although that book is out of date now, 1990s. It's now 2017. So new research needs to be done. But
Absolutely.
one of the
That's a
reasons
that's
why
a
one
that,
of the reasons why I think we need to be looking in the past is for solutions as well. As I think that these all these important things of history and anything that it all ties together, and we need to really bring this out and bring back all this knowledge and bring back this um, freedom that we know is the right way to be the live to the right way to live. And that's
right.
another thing that the Bible touches on or it talks about is all of these questions and these things about what is life and all these great things that we all think about, we all know about them, but we just for some reason you and I are understand the importance of it, and how we I don't want to raise ourselves above anybody else, but
Sure.
because we're all everything is connected and we're all really it's really one whole that
Right.
all of this is.
Right. So it's our responsibility to. It's not talking yourself up if you do realize that you are different than others. Right. That's the whole part of it's what I call the called. There's a few of us, and it grows exponentially, and it's over days and hours. It's not years and months. It goes by days and hours. That there's new people having realizations of their own, coming out of all different types of venues, such as geoengineering or politics or terrorism or whatever field of martial law, whatever the field they're actually keen on, they're waking up, right? And with that wake up, you're having more awareness than the general population. Their awareness is on football and beer. Your awareness is on geopolitics and how it impacts your life. So you tell me which one is higher or lower, right? And let's not look at higher as being, a superior. We're just looking at higher meaning a higher awareness.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but all of these things that we've talked about are really, I think that they're essential. We've got to get people to look into these things and understand them, and so we need to, gather together and really make our mark in history.
Right, but you have to have people that value themselves. That's the key component. Everyone that is awake, if you will, quote unquote, it has a self awareness, has a meaning of self. The ones that don't, that are not yet, they're not identifying with themselves. They're identifying with others around them and their surroundings. They're identifying themselves with that. Not and to explain that is you can have a guy that's awake and fully aware that is perfectly comfortable reading a book alone in his home and with no music, no nothing. You can have most people that are in the awake realm, if you will, can sit and by themselves for long periods of time, and it doesn't bother them at all. In fact, it's quite entertaining and enjoyable. General population that is not in the awake realm, they can't sit by themselves in complete silence for 5 minutes. And that's, again, a way of identifying who is awake and who isn't. The people that are awake are thinking complex thoughts. They're entertained in their head thinking about a fly and how it gets on the ceiling, right? They're entertained by why does an elephant know exactly where to go when its brain is nowhere near the size of ours, right? I mean, there's all kinds of so the awake people, if you will, the ones that I call the called, are are on a different level, bro. It's just a different frequency level that their awareness is way up there, and some more than others, And then along that way, it's all designed that way. It's meant to be that way. Now, again, as we go and we get back into the natural way of being, the natural order, the real world order, we'll all share that experience, and it'll be 10 times better than what even I find it enjoyable being in a different place than others.
Right.
But I want to kind of back up on the book, like the Fritz Springmeier book, Bloodlines of the Illuminati. It's a staple book. But however, it's a hard one to start with because it's so complex and so large, and it is
I think
outdated.
I think that Bloodlines of the Illuminati would be a. Oh, sorry, I think Bloodlines of the Illuminati would be a excellent introduction for anyone because it really was for
Well,
me.
going into the New World Order, the Bloodlines, it's a must. But for someone going, waking up or on the verge of a wake up, it's kind of and some of them would resonate with it. But a majority of them, I would say, would be, it's kind of taking on a big slab of freaking cholesterol.
Yeah, it might be a little too much information for just anybody that's just being introduced to the conspiratorial views and these ideas and connections that are being made. And uh, I do think that you're right in saying that it would be a it's not even the full story either. It's not it's and the Illuminati is just a term that we have used to identify these powerful movers and shakers.
Right.
That they have just been able to um, be in this create. They have created these people have created this system that we live in, and so we're just here. I'm just here, and I was just born into it, and now I'm seeing what's going on, and I want to do something about it.
Right.
That there's more to this life and more to all of this that can happen.
Right. If you again, if we take the blinders off, if you will, and again, people have a hard time with that one because they feel that, well, you need to have incentive to and they think that incentive is in a value of something. And only a value, a dollar provides incentive because of the value of that dollar. And again, that's an oxymoron. It's a complete brainwash, right? Because the dollar is not of any value. The only value that's in there is because we agree with it. And that even though we agree that, in 1970s a candy bar cost a nickel, and today that candy bar costs $2, you do the math on it, but we still accept it. So again, the process to break the walls down, we have to get people to value themselves in a whole new way. We can't find it in the new way that they've been teaching us. We got to go back to our awareness of ourselves on a fundamental level to keep and to get these people off our backs. And what I mean by these people, it's the Illuminati ties to on the ground the police forces, the corporate police forces are branches of it, right? They don't necessarily know that, but they're an arm of them. They're implementing the mind control through force, right? You must, have a piece of paper in your wallet on your possession at all times, identifying you and saying that I am this and you are that, when that is completely against the Constitution, completely against the rights of the people to be anonymous and to not be associated with any other organization that they don't want to be associated with. They're automatically press ganging you, which is an international crime, into the servitude role. So you're the common man's availability to ultimate expression is limited. It's built right in. So in order to break that, we have to get the individual to stand up and say, "Hey, I'm more important than that, and I have the control, and I am the one that's steering this ship, and I just got to learn how to take the wheel."
Right. And
And
so, but we need to take the wheel of our own lives and begin with
right,
ourselves, and that's always where it starts is with yourself. And so that
right,
goes back to what you were talking about in the introduction. You were saying that we need to take action on the local level, so that we need to take action with our own individual selves. But we also once we've realized that and we restart ourselves on that path, then we can move to action within the city, or
right,
action within your neighborhood and then the city, or and then going to the city to the county level and then the state level and
right,
so on. But you're
right,
like you were saying,
exactly.
it begins locally. You've got to start with yourself, and then start by talking to more people and networking and
Right.
expanding.
Well, it takes like you have to take the necessary step to, you know, buy yourself a Black's Law dictionary, anything sixth edition or earlier.
Right, and
Um,
educate
yeah,
yourself.
yeah.
That's key.
Get your founding documents of the contracts. The founding documents are contracts for the services corporation that was always set up to be a corporation. It was never set up to be a living entity. Okay, it's a corporate creation out of the people under their control. All three. There's four. They always say there's three branches of government. Four, right? So the fourth one is you. If you only think of, well, when I say there's three four branches of government, executive, legislative, and the judiciary, you're leaving out yourself. So by that programming, you're already eliminating yourself out of the equation, right? So um, again, if to the discovery of self is how you operate in law. It's not how you operate into cheeseburgers and Big Macs. It's how you operate in law. It's a parallel universe that exists, and there's three separate jurisdictional regions or jurisdictional realms around you at all times, 24/7, and you are assumed to be in the wrong one by the system around you controlling you. That's the cops on the beat, the judge on the bench, the congressman in his office that you pay for. So all these people have to be corrected, and they're not going to be corrected from their boss. They're going to be corrected from the consumer, which would be us, right? We're going to consume their service, and they have 19 enumerated services. 19. They can't tell people where to go to the bathroom or where they'll be allowed to go to the bathroom. They can't be doing any of that. And again, we have to learn how to take action locally and be like, you gotta, like you were saying, like city halls, and you go into a trial where there's a jury, and you go into a trial where it's the judge being the jury, and watch how it goes down, and you can see that. And again, the basic premise is if there is no victim, if a victim cannot be pointed out into that courtroom, then there is no crime. There cannot be a crime. They can't write up a body of papers and in the verbiage of those papers say this is a crime and just magically have a magic wand and make that into a crime. They can't do it unless you believe they can. And that's the situation we have found ourselves in. All of us woke up in is this system has convinced you that you can't impact anything. You are here to be told what to do. And when you make a mistake, you will be penalized through pains and penalties to submit. So again, to wake this up, we got to start with individuals, take one step at a time, get them to understand themselves in law. In order to do that, they got to understand there's 3 jurisdictions, right? And then which jurisdiction are we naturally in, and which one are they imposing upon us, and then which one would be? It's actually 2 other ones that were created that are there, but keeping it simple. So these are things, again, comes down to as we do these broadcasts, I'll be able to describe without going into there's certain hijacks on this realm as well, but we'll go into that as we go.
Yeah, and this is the first episode, not the first episode, but the first, the first podcast, the first broadcast, the very first thing where we've really taken a big step towards trying to educate people, trying to get people to ask these questions and teach themselves things that, just you're most likely not going to be taught.
You got to self-educate. But we were talking about some headlines, and there's one in particular that I wanted to bring up on this. Well, there's actually a couple, but there's one that I want to talk about that people have probably heard of, but they haven't heard the backstory to it. And it basically is it goes back to Seth Rich, which is the DNC guy that ended up that was found dead. Said he was robbed, pretty much made up. We know he's assassinated. Well, there's a story of a guy. His name, what's his name? Oops. Well, anyway, on this story, it was a chief of the CIA. I have his name, but my computer is jacking up on me. But anyway, what? Whoa. Whoa. Anyway, I'm gonna have to play with this. I'm not used to the thing. I'll have to play with this, and I'll be able to show screens. But I think that was pretty good for our first run. Um, we'll go over some of our um, books and videos in the future on a couple of new broadcasts and stuff that I'm going to do. I don't know how often I'm going to do them yet, but I'm going to try to kind of make it into a steadily more and more often, and then get into where I can show my screen and all that stuff, and show you go through some of the stuff where you can see it. But I enjoyed it, and it's actually looks like I've got some some footage on it that's going to work. And I think Carter, if there's anything else you'd like to talk about.
Nope. I had a great time, and I'm excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, me too. I think it was pretty good for the first run, and next one I'll have I'll format it with the news headlines and all that, and I'll have it where people can see it, and we'll go from there. But I think generally, I think we got out the message that walk on water and what we're trying to do on that, without getting into horrendous details. But I really encourage people to, in my description below, I have the links to my website that I'm working on. Again, I'm amateur at all this stuff. I'm learning as I go. So again, forgive me for some of the stuff, but I think it's going the right direction, and it's only going to get better. So I appreciate anybody coming in, stopping in, and taking a listen. Again, maiden voyage. We'll see what happens on the next one. We'll get a little bit better as we go. I
Thanks for
appreciate
having
you.
me.
Thanks for coming, Carter. I appreciate you. You guys have a good night.